The ocean had a habit of pretending nothing unusual was happening, which would have been convincing if it didn't occasionally pause like it had forgotten its lines. He stood knee-deep in the water, staring at the horizon while holding a rusted piece of something that had once been important to someone with better luck. "You know," he muttered to no one in particular, "if you're going to collapse civilizations, at least label the parts. I've got a pile of mysterious debris and not a single instruction manual." The fragment in his hand flickered faintly, then shut off with what felt like quiet judgment. He sighed and tossed it into the salvage crate behind him, where it landed on top of several equally unhelpful relics. He adjusted the scanner strapped to his wrist, tapping it twice when it refused to cooperate, which was his standard method of technical support. The display blinked, considered its options, and reluctantly lit up with a low, uneven signal. "Oh, now you work," he said. "Classic, absolutely classic behavior." The signal pulsed again, not strong but persistent, somewhere beneath the shallow shelf of seabed stretching out ahead. He squinted at the water. "If this is another broken navigation unit, I'm filing a complaint with whoever's still alive enough to care." The ocean did not respond, which was typical, though the waves seemed to hesitate again, just briefly, like they were thinking about it. He waded forward, boots sinking slightly into the soft ground beneath the surface. The signal grew steadier with each step, the scanner emitting a soft, rhythmic tone that made him feel like he was being led somewhere by something that had better plans than he did. "All right," he said, glancing around as if expecting an audience. "If this turns out to be cursed, I'm returning it. I don't care who I return it to, I'll figure it out." His foot struck something that was not mud. He froze. Slowly, carefully, he crouched and brushed away the top layer of sediment with his hand. The mud shifted strangely under his touch, pulling back not like dirt but like something mildly offended. "Okay," he whispered. "That's new." He pressed his hand down again, firmer this time, and felt resistance. Not solid, not liquid, something in between, something that seemed to notice him. "I don't like that," he added, which was becoming a frequent and entirely reasonable conclusion. The scanner chirped sharply. He leaned closer, ignoring the growing sense that he was interrupting something private. Beneath the thin layer of moving mud, there was a shape. Smooth in places, uneven in others, but unmistakably structured. Not debris, not scrap, he exhaled slowly. "You are absolutely not a navigation unit," he said. "You're worse, you're interesting." The mud pulsed, he blinked. "Did you just—" He stopped, reconsidered, and shook his head. "No. No, we're not doing that. You're mud. Mud doesn't pulse. That's a rule I'm very attached to." It pulsed again. "Great." He reached down and gripped the edge of the shape, pulling carefully. The mud resisted at first, clinging tightly as if it had legal ownership, then loosened in reluctant increments. As more of it peeled away, the outline became clearer, resolving into something that made him stop entirely. "Oh," he said very quietly, that's a person." He stared at the figure beneath the shifting layer, waiting for it to correct itself into something less complicated. It didn't. The form was unmistakable now, arms, shoulders, a face partially obscured by the last remnants of that strange, living sludge. "All right," he said after a moment, nodding to himself. "New rule. If it looks like a person, it's not scrap. That's a good rule. Should have had that one earlier." The mud tightened again, as if disagreeing. He pointed at it. "Don't do that, I'm helping." There was no reply, but the resistance eased just enough for him to continue. He worked slowly, pulling the substance away piece by piece, each motion feeling less like cleaning and more like convincing something to let go. "You know," he went on, voice steady despite the growing unease, "this is exactly how things go wrong. Quiet day, normal job, then suddenly I'm excavating a mystery person wrapped in argumentative mud. This is not in my skill set." The last layer shifted. For a brief moment, everything stilled, the ocean, the air, even the faint hum of the scanner. Then the mud slipped away from her face. He didn't breathe. "Well," he said finally, very softly, "that's definitely not standard issue." He remained crouched there longer than he was willing to admit, staring at the face he had just uncovered, as if it might politely rearrange itself into something more reasonable. It didn't. Instead, it stayed exactly as it was, unfamiliar in a way that felt deliberate. "All right," he said quietly, nodding once. "You're real, that's inconvenient but manageable, probably." The scanner on his wrist emitted a confused series of beeps, then went completely silent. He glanced at it. "Oh, don't start acting weird now. You've been useless all day, don't suddenly develop opinions." He tapped it. Nothing. He tapped it again, harder. The display flickered briefly, then showed a single line of text before shutting off again. "Unknown authority detected." "Fantastic," he muttered. "That clears everything up." The woman didn't move, but something about the air around her shifted slightly, like a thought passing through a room. He leaned closer, careful, watching for any sign of life. "Hey," he said, softer this time. "If you're going to wake up, maybe do it slowly. I'm not great with surprises." No response. He exhaled, then carefully slid one arm beneath her shoulders, testing the weight. For a moment, it felt normal, solid, grounded. Then, just as he began to lift, the sensation changed. Not lighter, not heavier, just uncertain, like gravity was reconsidering its involvement. He froze halfway. "No," he said firmly. "We're not improvising physics. That's where I draw the line." The ocean rippled outward in a slow, uneven pattern. "You saw that, right?" he added, looking around at absolutely no one. "That was weird. That was objectively weird." The woman remained still, though the faint glow beneath her closed eyes pulsed once, almost in response. He swallowed. "Okay, new plan, less commentary, more whatever this is." He adjusted his grip and lifted her fully this time. The strange resistance in the air eased just enough to let him move, though every step back toward the shore felt like he was negotiating with something invisible and mildly annoyed. "You're going to appreciate this later," he said under his breath. Assuming later still exists in a recognizable format. Halfway to the dry sand, the scanner suddenly reactivated. A sharp tone cut through the quiet. He flinched. "Oh, now you're alive again. Good timing." The display flickered rapidly, symbols appearing and vanishing too quickly to read. Then it stabilized for just a second. Signal received. He stopped walking. "From where?" he asked, as if the device might answer him out of courtesy. The ocean answered instead. For a brief moment, the waves stilled, not completely, but enough to feel wrong. Then they resumed, slightly out of rhythm, like a machine trying to remember how to be natural. He looked back over his shoulder. "All right, that's twice now, I'm officially concerned." The woman's head tilted slightly in his arms. He froze. "Okay," he said slowly. "That's new, that's definitely new." Her eyes didn't open, but the faint glow beneath them grew brighter for a second, then dimmed again. The air around them tightened, just enough to make breathing feel like it required permission. He shifted his weight. "If you're waking up, now would be a great time to explain literally anything." Silence. Then, faintly, a sound, not from her, not from him, but from somewhere deeper, far below the surface of the planet. A low, distant hum, like something ancient clearing its throat after a very long silence. He stared at the water. "No," he said immediately. "We're not doing that either." The hum deepened, almost imperceptible but steady. He tightened his grip on her and started walking faster. "All right, change of plan. We're leaving. I don't know what we're leaving, but we're definitely leaving it." Behind him, the ocean shifted again. This time it didn't hesitate. It listened. By the time he reached the outpost, he had decided 3 things with absolute certainty. First, he was not equipped for whatever this situation was. Second, the ocean had officially become suspicious. Third, if the universe had a complaint department, he would be submitting a very detailed report. The door slid open with a reluctant hiss, like it also disagreed with his life choices. "Don't start," he told it, stepping inside. "You're a door. Stay in your lane." It closed behind him without comment, which he took as a small victory. He laid her carefully on the narrow diagnostic platform in the center of the room, clearing aside a pile of tools that had been organized in a system only he understood, and even that was questionable. "All right," he said, stepping back and looking at her. "Good news, you're inside. Bad news, I have no idea what I'm doing." The platform flickered to life on its own. He blinked. "You've never done that before." Soft light scanned over her form, not in straight lines but in slow, spiraling patterns, as if the system was trying to understand something it had not been designed to process. The console beside it began displaying symbols, none of them familiar, none of them polite enough to translate themselves. He leaned closer. Okay, either you're very advanced or my equipment just gave up and started improvising. The symbols shifted, rearranging into something almost readable. Almost. Genetic authority unresolved. Unresolved, he repeated. That's comforting. I love unresolved things, keeps life exciting. Behind him, something clicked. He turned. The storage locker across the room had opened by itself. No, he said immediately. No, we're not doing independent decision-making furniture. That's where I draw several lines. Inside the locker, a small drone powered up, its single lens blinking awake. It hovered out slowly, then turned, not toward him but toward her. He watched it, arms crossed. If you zap her, I'm unplugging you. I don't care if that ruins both our days. The drone didn't respond. It simply hovered closer, scanning her face. The moment it did, the air shifted again, subtle, but enough to make the lights dim for half a second. The drone froze. Then, without warning, it powered down and dropped straight to the floor. He stared at it. Okay, that's new. That's definitely new. He looked back at her. Her fingers had moved. Not much, just a slight curl, like a thought passing through her hand. But it was enough. All right, he said slowly, raising his hands a little as if negotiating with reality itself. You're awake adjacent, that's progress. We like progress. The console behind him let out a sharp tone. He turned again. A new line had appeared on the display. Primary signal confirmed. His stomach dropped. There it is again, he muttered. That word, signal, big fan of signals, always harmless, never leads to anything catastrophic. The outpost lights flickered once. Then again. Outside, something shifted, not the ocean this time, but deeper. The low hum from before returned, louder now, steady, like a machine remembering its purpose. He glanced toward the window. You hear that? He asked, then paused. Of course you hear that, I hear that, that's not a subtle sound. Behind him, her eyes opened. He didn't turn immediately. If you're about to say something dramatic, he said, pointing vaguely behind him, I'd appreciate a warning. I'm not emotionally prepared for dramatic. Silence, then softly a voice, not loud, not sharp, just certain. This place is still standing. He froze. That's your opening line, he asked, slowly turning around. No hello. No thank you for the rescue. Just structural commentary. She was looking past him, not at him, her gaze fixed somewhere far beyond the walls of the outpost, as if distance meant nothing. The delay, she continued quietly, her voice steady but unfamiliar with itself, like it was remembering how to exist. It lasted longer than expected. He blinked. I'm sorry, what delay? I've been here the whole time. Nothing got delayed, except my plans to have a normal day. Her eyes shifted slightly, focusing not on him but through him. For a moment, the room felt smaller. The signal has resumed, she said. He exhaled slowly. Yes. Big fan of that. Huge. Really enjoying the signal situation. The console beeped again. Multiple signals detected. He closed his eyes briefly. Of course there are multiple now. Why stop at one? Let's invite all of them. The hum outside deepened, resonating through the structure of the outpost itself. She sat up. Not quickly, not suddenly, just with a smooth, effortless motion that made the air around her tighten again, like reality was paying attention. He took a step back. Okay, that's impressive, slightly terrifying but impressive. She looked at him for the first time. Really looked. And for a brief moment, he had the distinct, uncomfortable feeling that she wasn't seeing him as he was, but as something else entirely. You removed it, she said. He blinked. Removed what? The concealment. He pointed vaguely toward the door. If you mean the mud, yeah, it was very attached, not a fan. Her expression didn't change, but something in the room did, something quiet and heavy. It was not meant to be removed. He let out a small, nervous laugh. Well, that sounds like important information that would have been great to have earlier. The lights flickered again. Outside, the hum became a pulse. And for the first time, he realized it wasn't coming from one place. It was answering. He stood there for a long moment, staring at her, then at the console, then at absolutely nothing, as if one of those options might explain everything in a polite, organized way. None of them did. "All right," he said finally, exhaling. "Let's summarize. I cleaned something I shouldn't have, turned off a concealment system, and now the universe is sending notifications." The hum outside deepened again, no longer distant. It moved through the structure like a heartbeat that didn't belong to the planet. The console flickered, lines of unknown symbols stacking faster than the system could process. He glanced at it. "I assume that's bad." She was already standing now, steady, as if she had never been unconscious at all. "They are waking," she said. He rubbed his face. "Of course they are. Everything wakes up today. Fantastic theme, very cohesive." The floor trembled slightly beneath them. He looked at her again, really looked this time, and something in his expression shifted, not fear exactly, but recognition of scale. "You said that mud, it was hiding you." "It was containing me," she corrected, her voice calm, certain. "And them." He blinked. "So I didn't just wake you up." "No." "Good," he said, nodding once. "I was worried I'd done something small." Outside, the ocean surged, not violently but with intent. The hesitation was gone now. It moved like it had decided something. The console emitted a sharp tone. "Command authority requested." He pointed at it. "That seems like your department." She didn't move toward it. Instead, she looked at him. He frowned. "No, no, absolutely not. I am not qualified to command anything. I can barely organize my tools." "You initiated the sequence," she said. He let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "By accident. The system does not distinguish intent." "Of course it doesn't," he muttered. "Why would it make things easier?" The hum intensified, no longer just sound but pressure, something vast aligning itself across impossible distances. He felt it in his chest, in the air, in the way the light bent slightly around her. "You were meant to remain hidden," he said quietly. "Yes. And now everything's coming back because you're here." "Yes." He looked at the console again, then back at her. "And if you take control." She was silent for a moment. Not hesitant, just considering, as if the answer carried weight beyond words. "The Empire will return," she said. He nodded slowly. "Right, the Empire that nearly wiped everything out." "Yes." He took a breath, then let it out. "Okay, new plan." "We don't do that." The hum outside faltered for a fraction of a second, like something listening. She studied him, her gaze steady. "You would refuse command." "I would absolutely refuse command," he said immediately. "I didn't sign up for galactic responsibility. I signed up for quiet disappointment and occasional scrap." The console beeped again, more urgently. "Authority required." He stepped closer, staring at the display. "What happens if no one answers?" She didn't reply right away. The silence stretched. Then, softly, "They wait until something does." He nodded. "Good, waiting is safe. I like waiting." The hum outside shifted again, not rising this time, but holding like a breath not yet released. He looked at her. "You were hidden for a reason." "Yes." "And you remember enough to know that." "Yes." He gestured toward the console. "Then maybe the smartest thing we can do is nothing." She didn't move. For a moment, he thought she might refuse, that everything would tip forward into something unstoppable. But instead, she turned away from the console, her gaze drifting toward the window, toward the ocean that had finally gone still. "The delay will continue," she said quietly. He exhaled, tension slipping out of his shoulders. "Good. I'm a big fan of delays now. Huge." The console flickered once more, then went dark. Outside, the hum faded, not gone but distant again, like something settling back into sleep. He let out a long breath. "All right, crisis postponed." She looked at him again, not through him this time, but at him, her expression quieter, more grounded. "You chose restraint," she said. He shrugged lightly. "I chose not ending the universe. Seemed like a reasonable career move." For the first time, something almost like a faint smile touched her expression. Not quite human, not quite anything familiar, but close enough. The room felt normal. Not completely, not perfectly, but close. He glanced around, then back at her. "So," he said after a moment, "what now?" She considered the question. "Now," she said slowly, "we remain unseen." He nodded. I'm very good at that, been practicing for years. Outside, the ocean moved again, steady, quiet, as if it had decided to forget. This time, he let it. That brings